Welcome, folks. Let's talk about developer productivity. We're going to cover reporting, Fiddler, JustMock, and a whole bunch of other things. So it's going to be a fun, fun time. Let's get rolling here. So we are your hosts today. I'm Sam Basu. I'm a developer advocate here at Progress Software. With me, I have my two good friends, Rick and Rosen. So, folks, why don't you introduce yourselves, starting with Rick first.
Hi, Sam. Hello, everyone out there in webinar land. I'm Rick Hellwege, a principal sales engineer here at Progress. I focus on the reporting studio and all of our .NET bits, and I'm really excited to show you the cool stuff that we have coming out this time.
Awesome. And Rosen.
Hey everyone, nice to see you. And my name is Rosen, and I'm the senior manager leading the Fiddler engineering team and working on all of the Fiddler product that you have heard or may have not heard. So I'll be glad to present you all the new stuff that we have created for the last couple of months.
Awesome. And I'm so glad to have Rick and Rosen here because these are the folks who actually know their stuff and we're working on the products. We have a lot to unpack. While you do see the three of us on camera and on screen today, we do have quite a few folks in the back rooms as well. They're just here to help answer as many questions. You're giving us some of your time, which is precious. So utilize the opportunity to ask away any questions you might have. So just a little bit of housekeeping first before we get started. We are here for your productivity to make developers more successful in whatever type of app that you're building. We want to come in and help. So Telerik DevCraft, for those of you who have used things from us, be it from the Telerik ecosystem, UI components, reporting, anything else from us, thank you for your patronage. If you're coming in new to the family, welcome. We have a lot of things, a huge portfolio of products, all squarely meant for getting you to be more productive. So anything from design, development to testing, debugging throughout your application lifecycle, we want to be your partners to try to help you be more successful. So from UI components to design systems to testing solutions and network debugging, we try to have you covered and watch your back. So take a look at telerik.com/devcraft if you are again new to the family. So we have changed up a little bit of our schedule for 2024. We were used to doing 3 major releases. Now it's 4. But just to kind of also watch out for how much stuff we send your way. The first Q1 and Q3 are actually silent releases, so we do push out. You might get an email from us to say here's what's new, but we get to talk to you for the major releases, which is in May and November of this year. So May is when the Q2 release went out. We are just doing a webinar week where we unpack everything across the the entire release that went out. So just so you know about the timelines. So Q2 2024 release is out. It's we are going to try doing our best to do justice to all the engineers and all the product managers and testing folks and everyone who brings you this release. But we only have like an hour and a half of your time. So if you want more details, please check them out at blogs.telerik.com. Every product team takes the time to write up, here's what's new. But while you're there, take a look around at some of the other products that you might not be using, because some of you already have that Telerik DevCraft. It doesn't hurt to see what else is already in your ammunition set already. So every release we do have a bit of a theme going, and this time around it's all about polished UI components, which is kind of given from us. But we are also looking at generative AI. We are trying to make it more productive and try to see what that means for you. We are looking heavily into design systems, and accessibility is always big on our minds. So you as a developer don't have to think about much of these things, and you have a tool set that's ready to go out of the box. Drum rolls for today. It's Friday. We want to end things on a nice note because having all of the UI for your apps is one thing, but then you meet the reality of enterprise workflows, which needs reporting, which needs network debugging, which needs unit testing and mocking solutions. So that's what we're going to cover today with Telerik Reporting, Telerik Fiddler Everywhere, and JustMock. If you would like to ask something publicly, use X and you use the hashtag #HeyTelerik so that way we have a breadcrumb trail of getting back to you. Like I was saying, everything that we talk about today is going to be about the Q2 2024 release. So if you are seeing Rick and Rosen and me showing you demos and bits that you don't see, it's because you don't have the updates and the latest bits. So however you get them, maybe it's a NuGet package, maybe it's an npm library, maybe it's an installer, or a control panel update. However you get our bits, go get the bits. That's how you're going to see the latest released things light up for you. So now for reporting and some of the other things we talk about with JustMock, we are squarely sitting on top of the .NET ecosystem, which is a very productive, very welcoming ecosystem these days. You can target just about every framework. The tools of our trade have gotten so much better across Windows, Mac, and Linux, and you're coming into a rich ecosystem. So hopefully you're not rediscovering the wheel. We are here to make you more productive. And we talked about this quite a bit this week, but both across Telerik suite of products and Kendo UI, you see us trying to make sense of AI for you folks. Like a lot of the generative AI stuff can look a little nebulous at times. We are trying to give you smart components and AI prompts, so UI pieces that you can drop into your products and start infusing a little bit of AI intelligence in your apps. So again, take your own time, but take a look at what we can do for you, so you can bring in a little bit of smartness in your apps. And as we always say, we are here for you. We care about your experience, so do not struggle in isolation. Ask us questions. docs.telerik.com, we spend a lot of time, each of the product teams, to make sure developers have a nice onboarding experience. You want to look up something, how to do it, the docs should be your first place. We have lots of video content as well. Demos are a great place to check out all of the content, especially the things that Rick is going to talk about, as well as with Fiddler. Always check out the demos. And then if you see something that you would like to improve, or you are looking for something more, talk to us. Feedback.telerik.com. We read every single thing that you drop in here. All right, so that's all I had for housekeeping. Rick, favorite thing of yours throughout the year. Let's jump into Telerik Reporting. And this thing has come such a long way in the last few years. Big kudos to the team who makes this and puts in their blood and sweat in every release. So there's a lot going on. So Telerik Reporting, just at a high level, Rick, can you give me just an elevator pitch of what is Telerik Reporting today?
Sure. So Telerik Reporting. So to my one sentence description is it is a .NET centric UI agnostic library for embeddable reporting solutions. So unpacking that a little bit, what it means is we have what I like to call the 3 pillars of reporting: design, render, and view. The designers are multi-platform across Linux, Windows, web and platform tools, standalone Windows tools. The rendering engine is built in .NET, so it will be cross-compatible for Windows and Linux. That can be embedded directly in applications or hosted remotely. And then on the front end, we have report viewers across every UI platform you can possibly imagine, including just vanilla JavaScript for sort of the lowest common denominator. And that allows you to really have some native viewers to visualize your reports that work well with your existing design systems. So it is a great library for reporting. And for what is reporting at a high level, sort of conceptually, I get that question a lot. I like to think of reporting as virtual paper. So anything you can ever imagine having to put on a piece of paper, whether that be a report, I shouldn't use the word report to describe report, but that it be a marketing analysis or some type of bill of lading or packing slip, or even a receipt, from a standard receipt printer. Anything that might ever be visualized on a piece of paper is solidly in the realm of reporting.
Wow, that is very eloquently said. You said a lot of things in a very concise way. So again, to recap what Rick said, these are kind of the pillars of what Telerik Reporting today is, and it has a long history of trying to support you across your reporting workflows. So it's all about designing the reports first. How do you get to your data sources? What data sources do you need to pull out, and what you need to embed in your reports to generate the right type of reporting? So all types of data binding, variety of report data sources that it can connect to. And then you embed your reports into whichever type of app, client side that you can think of, everything from ASP.NET to, Windows applications to mobile applications. We got you covered, with native viewers across most platforms. And then when it comes to consumption of the reports by, your field folks, by your C-level folks, we got a variety of options for you. So deliver them however it is that you want, and they get to export things out. So it's high fidelity, high velocity reports is what we talk about. So a lot has happened in this space. And in terms of UI, Rick, do you find yourself wanting, or do we have everything in here?
I mean, there's pretty much everything you could want in reporting. And if something isn't there, you can usually put it together from some of the primary and fundamental components in reporting. I am constantly shocked and amazed by some of the reports that both customers and our internal teams build. I always talk about this, but one of our brilliant engineers built a fully functional tic-tac-toe multiplayer game in Telerik Reporting just to prove that she could. And that's still out there somewhere in our demo space.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are good at UI, so surprise, we can give you all the tools to render your reports. And behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. We use a variety of rendering mechanisms and technology stacks to do it right and squeeze out every bit of performance that we can as we are rendering those reports. Now, creating reports, and that's one thing, but delivering them and managing them, that's a whole other problem, right? So what does Report Server do for us?
So we always talk about the life cycle of reports, and the reporting library that we just talked about is really just those core pillars of reporting: design, render, view. There's a lot more that goes into an enterprise scale application, starting at user login, user permissions, ancillary things like the ability to have stored data sources that are easily reusable and shared and control access to. And then there's the tertiary items like the ability to schedule a report to run on a certain cadence, or the ability to have a data-driven reporting interface where if stock price is a certain trigger, you distribute reports to stakeholders. All of that are reporting adjacent, but not core to a reporting library. And that's where Telerik Report Server comes in, is we built the entire reporting infrastructure application around our own reporting libraries and provide a turnkey solution for enterprise scale reporting.
Yeah, well said. So it's all the things that you should not have to do by hand. We take care of it all. Quick look at Telerik Report Server, and I know the UI, you're excited to talk about this, has gone through a few refreshes, but here you look at the pillars, like you can do bind, you can do build, you can visualize, now you can do store and manage and export of your report. So Report Server is the end-to-end turnkey solution for all of your reporting needs, and it's powered by Telerik Reporting. Now, we are going to talk about a few things today before we start unpacking what's new. But one of the fundamental things about any reporting solution is access to data, right? Data is king, and data is what powers your entire solution. And you need to be able to pull from a variety of sources. So if we are to talk about data sources in particular, and the team is always working through a variety of things that they would like to consider bringing on new. We already have a huge support, but what additional data source functionality would you be needing? Entity framework for .NET, extended web services, data sources, relational DB support, and specific file-based data sources. If you choose any of those options, and so we are keeping this a little interactive, so feel free to also specify a little bit what you're looking for. Again, the team is really wanting to know. So in addition to everything else that we do support for data sources from a reporting standpoint, is there anything else you would you would want, and if so, what it is? All right, so Rick, this should not come as a surprise to you, maybe. Entity framework.
Yeah, that sounds consistent.
Yeah, because I mean, so many enterprise apps and line of business workflows do go through Entity Framework or some ORM to get to your data sources. It's a nice abstraction. So, okay, we hear you loud and clear. Very good to know. All right, let's keep going and see what the team has been busy with this release in Q2 2024. Starting with the big thing that Rick would, hate me to write SQL queries. So what are we doing about it?
Well, actually, Sam, I was going to have you write some SQL queries live for us, just so we can do some A/B testing. No, but I think most people out there can probably muddle their way through a SQL query after 9 or 10 attempts and getting the syntax perfect. You might get something that's close to working, but who has the time for that when you need to build a report and you just want to really jump in and start doing it? So the SQL Query Builder is the newest tool that we have added to the web Report Designer, which is the newest designer in that design pillar of reporting that I was talking about. This really lets you, like you said right here on the slide, democratize the SQL query composition to not just the data scientists, not just the SQL gurus. Really, you can use this to select the table, select the fields, have the automatic joining done for you, the automatic aggregation and grouping syntax done for you. No more going to your desk reference to look up the the exact group by sequence for inner, outer, and cross joins of tables. Really, this is a very nice tool for a very rapid SQL creation.
Now, two things about this really stand out. One is like it's a smart component, but for the most part, it's working on your web. Like this is SQL composition on the web. So it's so report designers, I'm sure Rick will talk more about it, but we got like a couple of options. You can do it in a standalone Windows app, you can do it inside of Visual Studio, or the web report designer lets you do everything in a web app, and you're building SQL queries in a web app. Just think about that for a second. With all the bells and whistles, drag and drop support, just point and click, and you can have a very complex SQL query built right in. But what is smart to me about this component is it's a dynamic UI component that plays to the strengths of both the server and the client. So on the server side, it can pull from your relational database and your schema, and then on the client side, it's TypeScript and Kinder UI powered UI that's letting you do some very fancy things with just visual mechanisms. So very proud that we have this now. All right, moving on. So lots of updated UI and UX looks like, especially when it comes to the web report designer. I am always amazed by how quickly this thing has come up to speed to anything we do in desktop, and actually exceeds desktop in some ways. So what are some new things?
So we added a lot of what I like to call +1 features. I mean, this was a really great tool. Like you said, it emerged out of nowhere and very rapidly became very competitive with our standalone report designer, which for a long time we were billing as our primary, rock star report designer. Well, the web report designer is giving it a run for its money, mostly because nothing to download, nothing to install. You just access the URL and off to the races. So lately, some of the features that we've added is we've tightened up the design to preview workflow. I'll be able to show that, where you can very quickly iterate back and forth between live preview of your report and the design view. And I usually don't get things right the first time. I know, Sam, everything you do is perfect on the first try and you never need to rework anything, but I take a couple attempts to get something the way I want. And I can go back and forth between preview and design very rapidly and really get my reports looking, their absolute best. And little features like things that, so reordering the columns and tables. You would think, okay, that's a minor feature, until you realize that if you got your column order wrong previously, you had to delete the table and start again. Which, maybe you had 2 minutes invested in the table, maybe you had an hour invested in that table. So just being able to move a couple columns around, might save you a whole lot of time. The tooltips on the properties, another big feature that we added. Seems small, but when you're looking at a property name and you're not quite sure exactly what it means, having a pop-up tooltip that tells you exactly what it means, exactly what it does, without having to go to the documentation, is going to be a huge time saver. And just tightening up the a lot of the UI, the drag and drop, and a lot of the polish really does make it a much more fun experience.
Yeah, well said. And every release, we don't, miss the opportunity to get every bit of performance out, because again, it matters to your users. Like, how quickly can we render those reports? How quickly can you get the data sources and the bindings right? So you're going to talk about, hear us talk about a lot more about Linux and different ways of which we can, host. But we use a variety of rendering mechanisms. So if you're using Skia graphics, then we have done a lot around text rendering and optimizing the performance. When it comes to faster report processing for PDF, we have done a lot of work across GDI and Skia. If you are using repeated images, so most often you might have a header or a footer that's repeated across your reports. We have done quite a bit of work to make sure everything is as streamlined as possible. So a lot of updated UI and UX and performance tuning in this release. Now, if you are in the game of building modern web apps and you are trying to embed reporting because you're users and your workflows call for reporting embedded inside of your apps, we got you covered. We have had web-based report viewers for a long time, but you want to do things natively because you might be building a Blazor modern web app, or you might be doing things in Angular. So out come the Angular and the Blazor native app viewers for your reports, and there are certain new things here. Rick, what do you know?
Sure. So the Angular and Blazor report viewers, for native versions of those components. So those are built using our own tool chain. So basically, the report viewer for native report view for Blazor uses our Blazor components. The report viewer for Angular uses our Angular components. And as such, they inherit all of the styling and all of the configurations that may already exist in those tool chains in your application. So just by dropping in a report viewer for Blazor, the native report viewer for Blazor, it's going to look like it belongs in your application, like it's always been an intrinsic part of your application. The toolbars are going to line up well. You're going to have all of the rendering semantics that you would have had with Blazor. You're not going to have any JavaScript or minimal JavaScript, tacked on, because you're adding a native Blazor component built on our native Blazor library, which we built from the ground up, to have, as close to zero JavaScript as possible. So if that's important to you, these report viewers that are built, purpose-built for these platforms are the right way to go.
Yeah, and as a developer, I think it's important to point out that it just feels natural, like you're building up your Blazor app or your Angular app, just like you would render any other component. Report viewer is just another component, so it just feels very natural. If you're a Blazor developer, you're likely in Visual Studio. So we got your integration and everything covered for Visual Studio. Tooling wise, you can run on the most modern .NETs. So a lot of good things happening with these native report viewers for Angular and Blazor. Now, we want to kind of play a nice balancing act, because this is always tricky. We have a lot of customers who are on .NET Framework, web forms, very, very productive way to build web apps, but it doesn't work on some of the .NET Core onwards. So we want to kind of standardize things as per what Microsoft is doing as well. So you're going to hear us do support for .NET Framework 4.6.2. That's going quite a bit back, but just to make sure that you're all covered. And again, no one's taking anything away from you. .NET Framework is a part of Windows. You can run those apps forever. But if you want to be on the modern bleeding edge, then we got you covered for .NET 6 and .NET 7 and 8 and .NET 9, which is going to come out in this November. So however you want to do this, we are here to support you with absolutely the best possible runtime, so we're getting the most performance out of it. And if you want to have future-facing apps, then choose modern .NET. But if you are maintaining apps on .NET Framework, be at peace that your security, your compliance for those apps are also in place. So we are very aware of all the variety of ways in which people run your reporting solutions, and we are here to support you. Linux. So Rick, you are way more hardcore than I am, and you run Linux as your desktop sometimes. What are we doing with Linux? Because it seems like more than the desktop, Linux has a huge draw when it comes to actually deploying your apps. So what are we doing with Linux?
Sure. So with the newest .NET, the love and support for Linux is greatly enhanced. In .NET Framework, you really didn't have much of a choice, but in .NET 6, 7, 8, with the new Skia libraries, Linux is really a first-class citizen in reporting. So what we've been doing is migrating away slightly from GDI+, which, as many people know, is no longer supported on Linux. You're getting warnings in .NET 7 and in .NET 8. It just doesn't build at all if you have the GDI library system drawing in a Windows deployable. It just won't build. So we've been moving to Skia Sharp for everything and optimizing that internally. You can still choose whether to use GDI or Skia, or allow the report processor to choose for you, depending on its detected operating system. We've also been adding new rendering formats for Linux, so you can export to not only PDF, which we had on day one, but now Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the other formats, and optimizing the deploy system for Linux. I think it'll be on the next slide, but we have something interesting to talk about with report server too.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have a note here about report generation on Linux servers for WPF and WinForms. I'm just going to take a second to talk about this. For WinForms WPF, of course, embeddable reporting, you can embed your rendering engine directly in those applications. It's a perfectly fine use case. But bear in mind, the reports you ship with, which have to live in the same place as the rendering engine, are all the reports the application will ever have. If you want to add new reports, you need to have a process to get those new files into that deployed distributed code. By having a remote report engine, whether that be on Linux, which is possible now, or on a Windows server somewhere, you can update your client's reports on the fly whenever you want. And as long as that WPF or WinForms application has online access, it can always connect to that rendering engine for the latest version of whatever reports you choose to ship.
Yeah, I like that, because you might be building a modern .NET web app, and then you get to host it on a Windows server or a Linux server, and then just have it serve up those reports to any desktop client that you might have. So a lot of flexibility here. Now, still on the reporting side, before we go to report server, you got more productivity gains. Looks like this was the integration piece that you were talking about, switching between the viewer and the web report designer in your workflow. Is that pretty quick now?
It's very quick. I mean, I can't wait to demo it because it is incredibly quick and efficient.
All right, lots of updates with better error handling. We got Office exports now supporting OpenXML SDK, which is a newish standard. So it does actually have some API changes, and we have all the documentation to help you migrate whenever you're ready. I know nothing about FIPS compatibility, but we do image handling in a way that is compliant for your security regulation requirements, especially if you're doing image caching and lots of repeated images. We got you covered. And if you're doing an Angular web app and you want to embed some reports, there is a new VS Code extension that makes it super easy. So kind of like file new project experience compared to like Visual Studio. Now you can do it inside of VS Code, just be able to render an Angular app with a viewer embedded in it. So very excited about that. Report server gets a few interesting updates. So tell us more, Rick.
Sure. So report server, probably the biggest limitation that we've had for report server was that previous to this release, it was Windows only, and it was .NET Framework only. So that limited where you could install and deploy report server. You had to have a Windows server environment, not even a cloud container, it had to be a full Windows platform because we use the Windows service daemons to host our scheduling engine. So what we have this release, and it is in beta, so I wouldn't necessarily roll it out to production, quite yet. But what we have is the Telerik report server rebuilt for .NET and with full built-in Linux support. So those requirements to run only on a Windows system or to have a .NET framework are going away. This is a great new advancement for report server, and we really get to expand that to everywhere that you want to host and run your applications.
Yeah, it's a huge update. Just think about, folks, the amount of effort that it takes to lift and shift something that is so embedded within the Windows ecosystem out to modern .NET and out to be able to run this on Linux if you want. And we also took the opportunity to refresh the UI, so everything looks very fresh, and report server can be hosted anywhere that you want. And it automatically gains all of the report, web report designer updates that we talked about for Telerik reporting. You get to do the exact same things while your app is hosted, on report server. And it looks like we also did some, proactive ways to test your connectivity from report server, maybe back to your databases.
Yeah, there's a new little function that we added to the data connection tab, which lets you quickly check that the data connectivity is working, and basically it's a go no go indicator. But it saves you, a lot of headaches when you just want to go down the list and check that all of your data sources are working and sanity check all of your reports without having to go open each individual report and test it.
Absolutely. All right, enough talk. Why don't we have you show us some of the things that we just talked about?
So let's see. First thing I want to do is I'm going to launch one of the pages from our demos. This is the shipped demo that comes with all installations of Telerik Reporting when you use our provided installer. So you'll have access to all of this so out of the gate. and this allows me to launch the latest report web designer. So I'm going to navigate to that page. Okay, so this is the Q2 web report designer, and I want to show a couple of features. Now, like I said, Sam, I'm going to put you on the spot. So I have a data source connected to my sample AdventureWorks data source, and I'm just going to get rid of this.
Let me pull out my AdventureWorks SQL queries.
Could you just go ahead, Sam, and dictate a quick SQL statement for me to join the production subcategory and category tables?
No, thanks.
Simple left inside joins are fine, and also do a filter for me by category for my report. I'll wait here, Ed.
No, thanks. You go right ahead.
Okay. Well, that's not really much of a problem because we have this new Query Builder tool in the Web Report Designer. This we had in the standalone designer for a while, but having this in the Web Designer adds a lot of features that are available. And one thing that occurred to me when you were talking a minute ago, Sam, is that this is taking advantage of the data sources that are configured in the server environment. So you could use existing data connections. And in the standalone report designer, you really had access to local connections, or you had to sort of get a list of remote connection strings from somebody to connect to your data set. This you really have in the previous screen. You can pick from your available data sources, and the Query Builder is going to go and find the schema of those tables and display it for you. And then it's really just a matter of either selecting some checkboxes or clicking and dragging fields into the selected area. So here you can select product and product category and subcategory and everything that you want. And as you go through and select the various tables, it's going to automatically figure out the connections between those tables and the relationships. It'll tell you, give you the option to do the inner joins or left joins, outer joins, right joins, whatever you like, but it's going to pre-populate this to give you the most common scenario. So it's populating the tables for you, it's populating the fields and the operators and the join fields. And when that's all said and done, this is actually a feature that I think was absent in the standalone Query Builder version, but there's this extra results tab here. So without having to go to a couple of screens, you can preview the generated SQL right here, and you can go to the data tab and generate the data. I think I broke something on the previous screen when I was joking with you, Sam, but I won't save this version of it. Yeah, I deleted the query. But if I go back in.
So what is really amazing is it lets you just point and click and create such a complex thing. And you also get to see a preview, not just of the query, but also what it's going to pull back.
Exactly. So this is a live data query here showing you the first 10 records that it'll pull back. And it just generates all of that for you into your application. Here we have the SQL 1 data source that was created, and then you can create your tables. I have a sort of a pre-baked cake, off to the side, which I can pull out of the oven here. So this is just a simple table using that generated field and the product categories and a SQL, a report parameter to filter what I'm going. But I don't know if you noticed, Sam, because it was so quick there, I jumped into a preview.
I did see that.
Yeah. And looking at a live preview. So let's go back to design, and we can look at our design. We can move something around, make an adjustment to the table, and go back to preview. And that workflow back and forth from preview to design, you wouldn't think it, but it actually is a huge time saver. Previous to this, it would open the viewer in a new tab. So you would have the same view, but there would be no button to go back, but you'd have a new tab open. So you'd have to remember to close that tab, go back to the designer, make a change, save it, hit preview, it would open a new tab. I mean, you're adding 1 or 2 seconds each iteration. So for me, designing a report, 400 or 500 iterations between start and finish, I'm saving maybe half an hour just in this one feature.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that is the web-based query builder. Let's see, what else were we gonna demo? Well, let me quickly show this only takes a moment to show off, but I'll quickly show the column reordering, because that's pretty fun too. So I'm just gonna grab a quick table here. It doesn't have to be anything special. I'm not even gonna bother data binding it, and we'll just give it some columns. Okay, now pretend I took half an hour designing this table and it really looks perfect. And now I discover, oh no, I want my middle column to be on the right instead of the left. We have this next context menu in here. You can go to move column, shift left, shift right. And it's really just that simple to organize and move your columns around. Again, this is what I call a +1 feature. It's you know, it's not earth-shattering, but it is adding a nice feature to reporting that, you know, makes your life just a little bit easier. And you add enough of these a little bit easier functions, and your life is a whole lot easier.
Yeah, but what you were saying, like you might be working on a report where you do your due diligence and it's a beautifully created report with all these tables, and then you go talk to your marketing, or then you go talk to your field engineers or your C-level folks, and they want to switch things you know, up, and you're going to have to redo everything from scratch unless you had this reordering.
That's an excellent point, Sam. In my world, I am the only stakeholder of the reports that I create. So yeah, and most people don't have that luxury. Okay, let's look at a few more features. So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. I have a Blazor application here. This started as a Telerik Blazor sample app using our Blazor template. It's a .NET 8 application using the Blazor web app template, the new one that's only available in .NET 8. So I just started with that, and then I decided I want to add some Telerik reporting to it. So in Q1, what I would have to do is go to the reporting page, follow the setups instructions, create a new Razor page, copy the code, do all the configuration, and you'd be up and running. So that would be a not too long of a workflow. But here, what we added is the ability to go to add new item, and we'll search for Telerik, and now you have all of the report viewers here that you can choose from. So you have the HTML5 viewer, the regular Blazor viewer that's a wrapper around the HTML5 viewer, but we also have the Telerik report viewer native Q4. So I already have one, so I'll make this the second one. Simply clicking add, it goes through a configuration where you can connect it to an embedded service, you can connect it to a remote service, you can connect it to a report server. Let's see. Let's see if that works. Oh, I need a colon. And it should give me a green indicator. You know, I may not have guest user turned on for that particular report server, but you would go through and get a indicator that everything was looking good. I think I can still proceed even though it's not showing green, and then connect to a specific report or a category and click finish. And in the end, what you'll get is this page here, a pre-generated report viewer Razor page, which you can then insert into your application. So this one I dropped into my pages and I added a link to navigate to it. And then we end up with a fully functional report viewer connected to a report server in our application.
I mean, like you're saying, you can do this by hand, but the wizard kind of makes it drop dead easy just to click around and just get it out, ready out of the box.
I mean, yeah, if we're talking, you know, maybe 30 seconds of configuration using the wizard versus maybe 10 minutes at most, 10, 15 minutes going through the documentation. So every 10 minutes you can save is, you know, 10 minutes earned. And let's see. Oh, that's right. We have the big feature to talk about. So here is the original report server, which I've had running, running forever on port 83. That's why that's why I couldn't connect. I had my port wrong. So this is what I've shown off, in previous releases. We have our reports, our dashboard, all the original features. But here in this other tab, I have a deployment of the new report server.net. So you can see that there are some aesthetic changes. The menus are a little different, but functionally it offers everything that the classic report server does. So we can preview the dashboard report, which will load up, and that all renders fine. The parameter section works the same way. These are actually using the exact same reports behind the scenes. Both report servers are connected to the same reporting database, so these are literally the exact same reports. One new feature, which I noticed, is that in the classic report server, you had the standalone report designer as the primary option, and you had a configuration option to enable the web report designer. In the report server.net, you have the web report designer as the standard option, and you have a configuration to enable standalone report designer. So we're really switching things around, as the web report designer is beginning to take the lead as our premier reporting experience. We want that to be the default option going forward. So that is a neat little change that I noticed when playing with it. And here's the same report designer that we looked at, but this time loaded through the report server.
Yeah, nice, because I mean it automatically benefits from all of the web report designer updates, and it's nice that we are kind of defaulting with the web now, because that's just so easy to get started and get your users going.
Yeah, and you can see the tooltips that we talked about. This, of course, will have the query builder built in, and all the little features that we added, which were really helpful, like the new enhanced expression editor. I can't find any difference between this and the standalone version. It offers everything that version did. And given the number of functions and expressions and operators that were built into reporting, this is a lifesaver to really have a exhaustive list of all the expressions you can use. Be able to select one, get an example, a description of what it does, an example of how to use it, and the ability to just double click on it and have it generate the expression for you automatically. So this was a great enhancement as well.
Very nice. All right, what else do you have to show?
I think we hit all the high notes, Sam, unless I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, and this, that's running on localhost. You said this is the one which is running on .NET, modern .NET. So you could take this to Linux as well if you wanted to.
Yes, there's a Docker file that ships with this, and we have a working example that runs on WSL2, Windows Subsystem for Linux. I didn't get that set up and deployed for the demo just because of the extra resources it takes to have a Linux VM running along with the webinar software and everything else in Visual Studio. I don't want to overheat my laptop, but
that's more, I was going to say, like, that's more for a deployment scenario. Like, you think about your Linux servers, your Docker containers running in the cloud. That's what it can enable.
Absolutely. We're working on some documentation to really give our users the exact steps needed to deploy it to Linux, and fully documenting that Docker file that we ship. But there is one existing in this deployment right now for those who want to play with it.
Awesome. Yeah, so there's a lot of good things in here with Telerik Reporting, as you can see. And Rick, thanks for debugging so many things so quickly. I know it's always difficult, to try to do justice to all the work that's been gone into a release, but that's quite a bit here. So Rick, if you have nothing more to show with demos, we're going to switch back to my screen. We got one more thing for you to ask. A quick poll, again, keeping it interactive. We are looking at what's next and what are some things that are potential places where we could come in and help you out a little bit more as you are building and creating and delivering these reports. So are you looking at design systems? Are you having apps, be it with Angular, Blazor, or any other web technology where you are using a design system? Are you using any particular tools like Figma or Theme Builder from us to get any of those things done? And then when it comes to actually getting that design system to flow right into your report, so you have like a cohesion, are those things at the top of your mind? Are those things where we can come in and help? So to what extent do you think embedded reporting should match your design system or language? Web report designers should match the app design, because now you're talking app versus reports. Report content maybe has its own design, or it should, web report designer should control what the app looks like, and so on. So a few options here to play around with, but essentially what we're trying to see is, does your report designer need to look like the same as your design system? And does your reports need to look the same as your design system, or would you like that flexibility of rolling things on your own? Web report viewer controls should match the app design. Does that surprise you, Rick?
No, not at all. Like I said, you want to drop in the report viewer and have it look like it's always been part of your application, which with our native viewers, I can say that we have that today.
Yeah, but I think we can do more, which is why I think the team is asking. So thank you, folks, for letting us know. Now, we're like 49 minutes in. Rick, there were quite a few questions, but how about we let you read through that? Because I know the team in the background has already been answering some of those questions. For the sake of time, why don't we move on to the next thing, and then we'll come back and do a Q&A for everyone, combined. But Rick, thank you so much. And, the folks from the reporting team who are on the call, as well as folks who work tirelessly, thank you for all the efforts to get us to a very nice release here with reporting and report server. Hopefully you're able to see that we are trying to enable you to be as productive as possible with your, reporting, workflows. So thank you, Rick. And let's move on to the next thing. Hey, Rosen is here with the coolest shirt ever. That TCP actually is not TCP IP, it's the cool people. And we are so glad to have one of the cool people join us for it's Fiddler time. Fiddler, Rosen, I don't know, when you started using it, like this was, day one of me as a developer. Like this is what I grew up with, right? So it has a long history, and so many people have kind of grown and, grown up with Fiddler, seen the evolution of Fiddler, but it's a lot. It's evolved so quickly, and it's not just for developers, it's for a variety of use cases. So let's jump all into Fiddler. So Rosen, same question to you as we did with Rick. High level elevator pitch, what is Fiddler today?
What is Fiddler today? It's a tough question, but I liked what you said in the beginning, that we are trying to make our users more productive and to help them in these complex environments that we are now working nowadays. So we see a couple of items here on the slides, but maybe the most important thing is that we are trying to make it an easy to use application that help you investigate and find your issues faster. And we are trying to make it in a way that you can focus on the actual problem, not on the using of the tool. It should be seamless, it should be easy to use it should work everywhere, no matter it is Mac OS, Linux, or Windows. And it should be pretty straightforward for you just to take it, just sign in and use it everywhere. So maybe this is the most important part. It has different capabilities. It can help you when you want to simulate some network conditions, if you want to simulate some specific use case, if you want to capture traffic that maybe it is hard to capture, if you want to use it for a quick composing and to call your server, if you want to capture from remote devices, all of those can be combined in saying, yeah, I have some network issues, I need to debug it, I need to simulate some specific scenario, and this is the tool that can help me.
Yeah, well said. So it's all about network. Developers, QA people, users should never be in doubt as to what's happening. You have the tool that gives you all the visibility. And I like it that it's for every type of app, web apps, mobile apps, desktop apps. I have the tool that does it all, and it runs the same way across Windows, Mac, and Linux, which is nice. And I also like how much the team has worked to enable kind of team workflows, like the collaboration things. Like you and me are working together, we should be able to compose an API together. We should be able to look at a network stack together, even though we are on different machines. So I like all of that. So today's Fiddler, it's not just one thing, because like we started with Fiddler with just being one product, but now it's a family of products. So tell us a little bit about this, Rosen.
Well, yeah, we have, as you can see, 5 products. One of them, you see that it is marked as early preview. I'll talk about it later, but the main product that we are working on is Fiddler Everywhere. This is the new and the cool version from the cool people, the one that we have invested. This is the cross-platform version, and we are putting a lot of efforts to add more and more features to make it easier to use and to make it the one tool that can help you in different circumstances. Of course, we have the Fiddler Classic, the old version. It is still working. It is Windows based only, but if you want, you can use it. It is entirely free. We have the Fiddler Cap, which is a desktop based troubleshooting solution. Of course, similar to this case, it is again Windows based. We have the Fiddler Core, which is the heart of the Fiddler products. You can use it in your applications if you want. This is a library that you can use in your .NET apps. And the new member of the Fiddler family is the Fiddler Everywhere Reporter tool. So you can think of it as a modern version of the Fiddler Cap, something that uses the full power of Fiddler Everywhere, but allows you to make it simple to give it to your end users, make them capture the traffic that from specific situation that they are reproducing and you are not, and then they can send you the SAS file and you can inspect it in Fiddler Everywhere. So it is free for your end users. You just send it to them, and they're just going to execute a couple of very simple steps and then get you the SAS with which you can inspect and even reproduce the issue that they have faced. As I've mentioned, this is still in early preview, so we are looking for users who are willing to test it, to give it a try. So if you want to give it a try, please drop a line in the questions, let's say reporter test or something like this, and we'll be able to catch up later.
Yeah, just raise your hand and say like I want to test, and then we'll follow up with you. So it's quite a family, and we'll talk more about Fiddler Everywhere. But you and the team work on this every day, so to you it may not be a big deal, but Fiddler Everywhere is a big deal because like I spent about 10 years as a Mac developer, like since I switched from Windows to a Mac, and the thing that I kept on missing was I want Fiddler on my Mac OS, I want Fiddler on Linux, and now you have it all with Fiddler Everywhere. So Fiddler Everywhere is for your developers in the house, it's for your QA people, and it's for your support engineers. So they all have complete visibility into everything that's going on in your network, no matter what be the type of app that you are building. So we talk about this a whole lot, what Fiddler Everywhere is, but you look at some of the features that are inbuilt, you look at some of the advanced things, and then also the sharing and collaboration. So Rosen, maybe you walk us through a little bit, how the team works. In the last couple of years, we have seen Fiddler Everywhere grow really in leaps and bounds. So, where are you folks happy with where the product is right now?
In fact, I would say that we are really proud with what has happened, especially in the last couple of years. So it started like, okay, we need to make it work on different operating systems. As you mentioned, we've all been struggling with this. And I remember in the first days that I needed to use macOS and Linux, and I was struggling with this. And what I was doing, I was running Fiddler Classic on Windows, and I was pointing my macOS machine to Fiddler Classic on Windows, just to be able to capture the traffic. So this was our first goal, to make a product that can work seamlessly on the 3 operating systems. Then we started to think, okay, but if we are going to do it for 3 operating systems, we need to change the technologies. We need to make it seamless for the users and to make it really an app from the 21st century, let's say, with all of the new technologies and the power that we have in the company, with all of the can-do components and everything that we have. It was not an option to use any other technologies. We needed to use it and to make it a beautiful app. After that, we thought that, okay, now we have the application, now we have the basics. What should we do now? And after discussions with multiple users, we decided that it is time to add different options for capturing multiple different protocols and different ways. And that's how it started. Later on, we've built additional features, additional functionalities, and at some point, we found some issues like not everything can be captured. How are you going to resolve it? Many applications nowadays they just don't respect the system proxy, and by design from the first years of the Fiddler it is working as a system proxy. So we had to find some clever ways, and I'll talk later about some of the new features that we have inside. But inside all of those, while working and searching how we can resolve this, we were thinking, okay, we have this tool, but as you mentioned, we have the teams. Some of the scenarios that we have needs to be reproduced. They take a lot of time to be reproduced. And once you do it, why the teammates should do it again? Just share all the information with your teammates. And that's why we've created the sharing functionalities to make it easy for all of you to just send it to your teammates, and they can save their time.
Yeah, well said. And I'll agree with you. Like, I think we are all very proud of where this product is in just, a few years of, just hardcore investments and all the, love and care that's been put into it. And like you said, like modern application stacks are complicated. You have microservices, you have modern web apps, you have mobile apps, and they're all using a variety of protocols. It's not just simple HTTP anymore. So how do we capture all of that? And how do we have a nice refreshed UI? How do you do single sign-on and offline and all of those things combined? So really proud of where Fiddler Everywhere is. Let's talk about some of the new features in this release. There is a new extended quick search. So I can, oh, and by the way, the latest one is Fiddler Everywhere 5.11.0. If you want to, go and update your Fiddler, that's what you're going to get as the latest one. So Rosen, I can always go into my, my grid of captured sessions, and I can do a search, but looks like you have, made that a little bit more smarter, look into other tabs as well.
Yeah, what we have done here, it was based on user's voice here. So we were asked, how can I search in the body? You have this powerful quick search, and how I can find more information. So we invested a lot of time to see what are the different options. One of them was to add custom columns. So you can, in one of the releases, we've given this option, so people can now add different columns based on the headers that they have in the request and the responses. And it is easier to filter them because we have these powerful filters. But then we continued receiving this feedback, and we were thinking, okay, maybe we are missing something here. Why people are looking for this so much? And once you start using the searching for complex data, you just hit this. So we just added this tiny little button that allows you to to switch on the functionality. And when you search inside the search box, you can easily find out more. You can tell it to search in the columns that you see, and also in the grid, in the body and in the headers. Also, this quick search allows you to, if you use the space symbol, you can write multiple words, and it will search for each of them separately. If you want, you can put it in quotes, but also, for example, if you want to find all of the sessions that contain Fiddler and have status code of, let's say, 500, you can just write Fiddler space 500, and this will show only those sessions.
Nice. Yeah, love it. So, I mean, so one of the things with Fiddler is like it just captures everything, right? It gets a little bit overwhelming. So I love the filtering. I love the search functionalities where I don't need to see everything. Just show me my app and just the one, 500 error that I'm chasing down. So I love all of the updates to, quick search. Now, looks like there's a new way for me to add rules in bulk. So rules are the things that keeps us productive. Like I want to specify, I want to only see this. I want to see a session where this happens. So those are the specific rules that we set up. But now it looks like you can select multiple sessions and add a whole lot of rules in one go. So tell us more.
Well, this is one of the items that I really like here, because it allows you to easily replicate an issue that the customer had faced. Let's say that they've used the reporter, maybe they have sent you some data, so a traffic that they have captured, but you still do not reproduce the issue. So you can just mark all of the sessions, add those rules in on your site, enable the toggle on the top of the rules tab, and then start following the user's path. And instead of receiving the actual responses that you are calling the server, the rules will mock all of the responses that the user had received. So you'll be able to inspect let's say use the dev tools to inspect the HTML, but you will see the actual responses that your customer had received. So it will be much easier to find and replicate the issues. You know that in some cases you just need to follow the exact step and it doesn't work. But with these rules, you can now directly replicate exactly the same behavior. That's why we love it so much, because you can now select multiple sessions, let's say 1,001, and with single click, you can have all of them set up.
Yeah, very useful for, like you said, mocking specific use cases that you're trying to, debug and figure out what's going on with the user. All right.
Yeah, in
well
addition
done.
here, what it will also do is, for example, some of your users might hit endpoints that you don't have access to, but it will also mock them because it has the ability to mock the connection. So you just, for you, it will seem like it is working.
Yeah, and what are the rule presets you mentioned?
Oh yeah, we have prepared several rules presets for the most common things that we believe users will want to use. First, we've placed them in the documentation just to gather some feedback to see if we have missed something. We hope to get them inside the application soon. But for the moment, if you go to this link, you will find out rules how to simulate cores, how to block third-party cookies, and so on. So just give it a try, and there's a feedback in our documentation. If you see that something is missing, you can write it there or in our feedback repository.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Capture mode, network capture mode. What is this?
Oh, I can talk about this for hours. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we were thinking what is going on and why many applications can be captured. And we have hit multiple issues with this. On one side, there are just frameworks which do not respect the system proxy. They have their own configuration. It is hard to configure it, and you just cannot do it. Or it takes a lot of time. And also, it might require you to change your application code. And we think this is wrong, because in order to inspect the network traffic, you shouldn't change your application code. This is just not how it should work. So we started to look for alternative ways for capturing. As you know, Fiddler's main way of capturing is the system proxy. You click a toggle and it sets the system proxy on your machine, and each application just reads this configuration and starts sending the traffic to Fiddler. As mentioned, many applications and frameworks just do not respect it. Then we introduced our browser option, which is one click, it opens a new browser instance, and the whole traffic from this browser instance is directly sent to Fiddler. Easy for use for web developers. They can just use this browser button. Then we've added the terminal option, which has a pre-configured it is pre-configured for some of the most common frameworks, and like Node.js. Node.js is a framework that does not respect the system proxy. You need to set some environment variables, you need to set some other flags, and inside our terminal, it is already done. So you just need to run your Node.js application from there. But with those three options, we still were feeling that something is not right, that we can do even more. So we found a new clever way to do it, and this is the network capture mode. Currently, it is available only for macOS, but we are working on the Windows version as well. The whole idea of this is that it works in a totally different way. It works on a lower level, and your applications don't even understand that there is a proxy. So this makes it much closer to the real world scenarios that you are going to test with your application, because you know that when you have a proxy set, all of the applications, they need to change the way they send network requests. They understand about the proxy, they send connect tunnels, and so on. With the network capture mode, what actually happens is that Fiddler is capturing the traffic on a lower level. And now even frameworks and applications which think that they'll just not respect your proxy, they cannot escape from it. So you can configure it to say, let's say, for example, I want to capture everything on this specific ports, let's say 80 or 443 or your local development port, and then it will start work. You can also filter by process. For example, you can filter by your browser process or something else. And when you enable it, it will start capturing the whole traffic that is sent on these ports. And it is really powerful. If you can enable it through advanced mode to capture the whole traffic on your machine, I do not advise you to do it, because you'll be scared by the amount of tracking that happens there, and you'll find out some interesting cases, I believe. For example, the telemetry, what is sent, which applications are checking your location, and so on.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is something totally different, and I really love this functionality.
Yeah, this is very exciting. It's kind of like all of the Fiddler UI stays the same, but you're fundamentally changing how you capture the network, not system proxy. It's much more lower level. All right, and I'm sure you will be able to show this off in a bit.
Yep.
But compression-wise, these are pretty standard things we have used in the web. We have gzip, we have deflated. But what is this thing called ZSTD, Z standard that I keep hearing?
Well, this is something new that. In fact, it's not entirely new, but this year it was a fundamental change in all the browsers. For maybe 6 or 7 or even 8 years, we have not seen a major new compression algorithm added to all of the browsers to be used by default. And now I think it is developed by our friends in Meta, but what is it? It's just a new algorithm that is more powerful, gives you better results in some cases, and it is widely used in all of the Meta applications. So what actually happened is all the major browsers started sending this as accepting coding header, like next to the gzip and deflate and broadly one. So many applications out there started to sending, many servers, started sending the responses through this encoding. So we had to do something, and we've added the decoding of it. So now you shouldn't worry about it. You just open Fiddler and you'll be able to inspect the human readable version of the data. It will be sent with no matter if it is deflate or zip standard or whatever it is. Fiddler is there to decode it and it will just work.
Nice. So the compression algorithms should not worry you, because we can decode and HTTPS look inside that entirely and make it human readable. So that's very nice. Something new for the first time after quite a few years of compression. All right, now this is kind of getting into how we do breakpoints in code, because it looks like now you can set breakpoints before something happens, like before a request is sent out or a response is received. So tell us more.
Yeah, this is a common, this again from the user voice. People were asking about it. So we were thinking, is the breakpoint the correct name? Can we do something else? But we decided that, okay, breakpoint is something that people are expecting, so we'll call it breakpoint. What it actually does is it allows you to stop the request before sending it to the server, modify it directly in the inspectors of Fiddler. So for example, you can change the whole body, you can change the headers, whatever you want, or you can break the session before sending the response to the client. So if you want to replicate a specific behavior, you know that or you think that your application will break if you, let's say, put some different data in the body, you can do it easily without worrying about creating complex rules or writing code in your server that returns this body. Just put a breakpoint, edit it, and play it after that. The whole point here is that one of the scenarios is you want to modify the request, the other is you want to modify the response. And in some cases, you can even hit some corner cases when you just leave your sessions on a breakpoint and see how your application will behave. This is something interesting, and we've seen many applications that do not react very well on this case.
Interesting. Yeah, so complete flexibility before and after you send a response or get a request, send out a response, so you can tweak and manipulate things as need be. All right, now there looks like there's some UI updates here with the new status bar, because again, Fiddler gets busy with just how much it captures, but looks like now there is an easy way, very visually, for me to understand what is being captured from what source, how many sessions do I have selected, and also it can get busy. I'm getting old, so I can zoom in if I wanted to, right? So
yeah, we all have to do it sometimes. Yeah. As you've mentioned, there are a lot of things going on inside Fiddler. Apart from the capturing, we have these rules, we have connections from remote devices, we have the zoom and so on. So we decided to add this status bar with information about what is currently active, because in some cases, some specific scenarios require you to use let's say the browser and the terminal simultaneously. you also have, let's say, 5 or 6 rules, and you might get confused. And that's why the status bar is there to help you, to show you how many instances you have used, how many rules you have. If your port for capturing is open for remote connections, this is important because you should use it only when you are actually debugging, let's say, mobile devices or remote machines. And yeah, we just wanted to make it easier to have a summary of the whole information, because you were able to find it even before that, but now it's much easier.
Yeah, I particularly like the enabled rules thing, because you forget how many rules you have enabled, and now it shows you right up front. All right, now modern web apps or connected systems and distributed systems and mobile apps, they are complicated because they are using a lot of variety of different types of traffic, and you want one tool that captures all of it. So we are very proud to announce that we have support for just about everything you can think of, right? So forget HTTP, that's given, we know how to do that, but any of the modern things like WebSockets, where your client and server do a handshake and now it's at a different transport layer and you're talking in a language, maybe it's encrypted, maybe it is not even human readable, maybe it's really compressed, we can do all of that. Message pack, socket IO, gRPC, protobuf, we can do all of it, and now we have official support for HTTP too. So this, I'm guessing, Rosen, was quite a bit of work to make sure everything is supported.
Yeah, it took us a lot of time to just figure out the number of protocols that we need to support, but each of them had their own use cases. And nowadays we have a lot of applications related to real-time updates, and there are many different ways to do it. In the maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it was only WebSockets. Nowadays, it's not this way. We have the socket IO, which is actually based on WebSockets, but it has a totally different kind of information that is important for the users. So we needed to work on all of those, and I'm really proud of what the team had achieved here, because for each of them, we have tried and we have achieved showing even more information than most of the other tools that you can find on the market, just because we believe that it is important for our users to get the actual information that is being sent, not something that will be that you think might be shown. Let's say we could have say, okay, we will just show the messages in all of those, because most of those are based on messages. But it is not our way of doing things. We prefer to give more and more information. Everything that you can find out is inside Fiddler.
Yeah, well said. And we would love to actually show you some of this in action. Speaking of that, and enough talking, Rosen, why don't I give you the floor so you can show us some of the new and cool things in Fiddler Everywhere.
Okay. So this is Fiddler Everywhere. This is the first thing that you are going to see when you sign in. And here again, we've showed them in the past, but I just really love those wizards. And we have those capturing modes here. You can just click on them and follow the steps. It's really easy to just enable the flow that you want. But we'll go in the inspection part here. We have our rules, we have the inspectors, we have the overview, and so on. The first thing that I'd like to show is maybe the network capture, because I mentioned that this is the cool new kit. It's still in beta, and as mentioned, we are working really hard on the Windows support, so stay tuned. Hopefully it will be out soon. So what we have here, this is just the basic configuration. In my case, I'm going to use a specific localhost port, and now we are going to capture some traffic. I really want to enable the HTTP and HTTPS traffic here, but as I've mentioned, it will capture a lot of data, and I might misclick and show you something that I don't want to show. Let's say if application is sending locations and so on, this might pop up, or even worse. By the way, for security researchers and for people who just are interested in what is being sent by the other applications, this feature is a killer one, because you may even enable the whole traffic, and then through our search in the body, you can search for your password, let's say, and you will see which applications are actually accessing and sending your password and where. This is something that I've done, and I found some interesting results. Okay, so we can enable it. I'm going to enable capture. The first time when you do it, you have to give permissions. Unfortunately, the macOS setup is not flexible enough. So the dialogues are, let's say, a little bit tricky. So you'll need to read them carefully. As I have the network extension installed, it is just going to work on my side. And for this demo, I've decided to use one of the languages and frameworks that is almost impossible to be captured. This is Golang. So here I have this demo. It is the official one. I'll just show you from where I have taken it. This is the in from GitHub gRPC, and really important to show. I have not done any changes on the demo. This is the original demo, and it is there. So I will go with I will run the server now. Hopefully I've used the correct port. And now this is a clean terminal, nothing in it. So I will run the client as well now. So the client sent a lot of data. This is just the route guide example from Golang. And now let's see what is going on in Fiddler. So we have some connections here, and we have that this traffic is gRPC. So we are talking here about gRPC through Golang. Two really difficult things. gRPC is working only on HTTP2. You cannot use it on HTTP1. You cannot use it in the browser. Really complex scenario that I have chosen, but yeah, let's see what's going on here. So here we have the inspection, we have the handshake, and now we can inspect the messages. Okay, we have some messages. They are not human readable for the moment, but we have this nice wording here. No server reflection or proto file provided in the settings. For the gRPC servers, something that is not standard but is used quite a lot nowadays is the server reflection. Your servers might be configured to have an endpoint there that you and your application can go. It can take the proto files and decode the messages. However, for this particular example, we don't have such server reflection, and that's why we cannot decode the messages directly. But through the settings, I might be able to figure it out. So just to ensure we are on the right location, we'll add this proto file. So we have it here. I have saved the settings. Oh, sorry, misclicked. And now we have the decoded version. So that's actually what was sent from the client to the server. And it says that this is somewhere in Jefferson, New Jersey. We can look at the other. Let's say here we have a lot of messages. You can just click through them and see what's being sent by the client, what has been responded by the server, and so on. So through the network capture, without any modification of the Go example, I was able to capture Golang. If you want to do it through the other methods, let's say the system proxy or the terminal or whatever kind of proxy you are going to use, it is not easy to capture localhost traffic. You need to modify your hosts file. You need to modify your application. You need to set some environment variables, and all of those just to capture some traffic. And that's why we believe this is not the way to do it. We believe the network capture is the thing for those specific use cases. For the rest of them, it is simple to use the terminal or the browser, but for some of those edge cases, the network capture is indispensable. Okay, here we can also, what else we can demonstrate maybe is the server sent events, something that is quite popular nowadays. There are many websites which are using server sent events just to do their real life scenarios, and they use them to update the information that you have. So there are multiple ways to do it. In my case, I'm going to use the browser button, and just to find out where was my address for the server, I'll use a demo server, which is running on HTTP2 Node.js. It's on localhost. The other option was to put this port in the network capture settings. It would still work. And I will open DevTools just to show you how the server sent events are look like. So we have this configuration. If I want to update the messages, I'll use it in a minute. Now we start, and we see here that there are, let me just pull this a little bit. So what we see here is the server is sending messages to the client. This is how the server-sent events work. The client connects to the server, and then server keeps connection and sends messages whenever is required. Here it is just random data, but now I can show you how it looks like inside Fiddler. So we have this information here. I will just double click it, and we have, let's say, the same information. We have the data, we have the event, we have the ID, seems similar. Now let's tweak it a little bit. So in server sent events, if you send a message which starts with colons, it is considered as comment. These are often used for ping, just to keep the connection live. So I'll write here test. So 2 enters here. All of the messages in server sent events must finish with 2 new lines. We click update, and now what we see is that our handler is no longer called. Seems like the connection is broken. What it actually does is it says to the server, start sending me this type of messages. But here we do not see the messages. The first time when I started working with server sent events, I was really confused what is going on here, because on my side, I didn't know about that this is comment, and it looked like I thought, okay, what was broken? I started digging into my server. But in Fiddler, what we can see here is that the server is actually sending those messages. It is just the browser that disregards them and doesn't want to show them, because this is how they are designed. But if I had this, I wouldn't worry. So the next thing that is going to happen, I'll just change the message and say, okay, I will start sending test messages. Seems like it is going to work. I'll update it, and now the server should start sending me test messages. But again, it is not working. This is due to another trick in the browsers, which just keeps the last event type that it has used. So in this case, we see that the test message is sent. It doesn't say has an event type sent by the server, but the browser keeps thinking that it is a command, and it will not do anything. So the key here is to use event message, data test, 2 new lines, and now it starts popping out. But you see what is the difference between the dev tools and with Fiddler's handling of those events. Here we have all of the information. Whatever the server is sending, you can see it inside Fiddler. Something that is not possible in any other tool, I would say. Many of the tools nowadays are not even showing the server sent events while the stream is still active. Of course, from the tool show them, but other browsers like Safari is not showing the server sent events at all. In Firefox, you can inspect the messages after the connection is closed. In Fiddler, you have real-time information, and it is actually everything that the server is sending.
Yeah, well said. And I mean, I trust you to come up with the craziest of demos and really hardcore stuff. And while you have Fiddler open here, can you show off the status bar at the bottom real quick? Like, I see all of those things light up.
Yes, let me just pull it out. Try to zoom a little bit. Yeah. So currently I have the browser, I have the network capture on. If I click on the browser again, I will see multiple instances here. I have one rule enabled. Maybe I can demonstrate some of the rules here. I have not enabled the remote connections because I'm not debugging any other remote devices. And also here I have my IPs if I want to have these remote connections, my host name, and so on. So this is the power, and one of my favorite features here is you have how many sessions you have selected, how many are visible, and what is the total number of sessions. Because, for example, let's say we are going to search for 200, let's say 500. Sorry, 500. We have 500 here. Let's see if we have in the status code. Okay, we don't have. So I'll use 502, and then I want to find something else. I can write it down, and now it matches with some of the data that we have. And here you see that it will say visible 1, but the total number of sessions is 156. Also, the tiny little button that I've mentioned, the searching body. Of course, we put a tooltip here that if you enable it, you might have some performance issues because we don't know the number of sessions that you might have. If you have captured, let's say 10,000 sessions, the search, of course, it will be slow. By the way, one cool feature that we had we have released, I'm not sure why, when, maybe 6 months ago, is you can control the number of sessions that you keep in the live traffic. So if I do it this way, I can keep only the last 10,000 or the last 5,000 sessions, and Fiddler will automatically delete the oldest one. And that's when the search will work fast.
Makes sense. And the little selected thing at the bottom kind of tells you immediately, like, here's how many sessions you have, but by the way, you're only able to see this many because you have filters on. But my favorite status bar is the zoom, because I'm old. Let's see, zoom in distance. Yeah.
You're not old.
All right. Yeah. All right. This is really cool. So Rosen, before we switch gears to something that I was going to show, but anything else you want to show off with Fiddler?
Yeah, maybe the last thing that I want to show here is something that we have released yesterday.
Okay.
So we had another release yesterday, so it's pretty new. So if you give it a try, please send us your feedback. We have a tons of channel where you can contact us, but we call it the advanced replay. I will show it with one session first. So when you click it, you have the option to repeat the session specific number of times, and you can say that if you want to be sequential or in parallel. For example, if you want to execute it, let's say 100 times, you can just click start and it will execute those in parallel. I'll just give it a try. What else could happen? So yeah, we have these 100 sessions at the same time. You can use it just to simulate some load testing or something quick that you want to use. But the other option, that you can select multiple sessions here, and if you click advanced replay, it has different options. One is the repeat behavior and the other is the request behavior. So we consider those three as a group, the ones that you have selected. And now what you can do is actually define that this group needs to be repeated sequentially or in parallel. For example, in this case, the whole group will be executed and each of the requests inside the group will be sequential. The first one will be executed once it's finished, it will be executed again, and so on. The same, but it allows you to control it and to switch to parallel. In this case, let's say I have set here 10 times. I will have 10 groups to be executed in parallel, and in each group, the requests will be executed sequentially. This could it has a lot of different scenarios that you can use here. You can put, let's say, 1,000 and see what will happen. And one of the important things here is that you will see the number of requests that are going to be executed, because you might not see this directly from here and to consider it. That's why we decided to put it here and to see, just to show you what is going to happen when you click the start button.
Well,
so yeah,
maybe
we can go to your demo now.
Sure. Well, I'm going to try to hide after after what you showed off. But no, this is a really awesome stuff, because now you're getting into kind of load testing scenarios of running things sequentially and parallelly. So that's awesome. So I was going to show off one quick thing, because Rosen and team have worked so hard on the variety of protocols. Okay, so this is a Hello World ASP.NET web app. Right, it's just a Hello World app, and inside of ASP.NET is a beautiful new stack called SignalR. It's been there for 10 years now, but it's great for real-time communications between server and clients, and the clients can be anything, but the server-hosted thing is the part that's .NET. So what I have here is a little hub, which is an in-memory object on the server. It just has one function that says send message, and it takes in a user, takes in a message, and then just broadcasts it away to anybody else who's listening. So just by default, when you have this in my program.cs, it's mapped to that particular hub, so all my clients can connect up to that hub. And then in my index CS.html, which is just the Razor view, and again, you can do this in JavaScript, you can do this in .NET, whatever is your stack. I just have a little bit of HTML markup to capture the user and the message and so on, and then it brings in a couple of JavaScript dependencies. And here I have a chat.js, which is a JavaScript file. This is the JavaScript front end to the .NET host, which is on the server side. So this is essentially going to connect up to that hub, and it's going to try to invoke that method on the hub. When I hit that send message, it's going to call that send message on the server. That's going to broadcast it to every client, and then it's going to receive it on this message. So, pretty standard stuff here. So if I go ahead and run this, and let's run this without debugging, you're going to see my browser open up here to say, hey, I'm a user, I'm a message, I'm ready to receive. Let's open up Fiddler Everywhere. And I don't have the hottest bits like Rosin. This is still 5.11. I already have a filter here looking at localhost. So right now it's saying, hey, I don't see anything. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And now I see localhost. And right out of the gate here, you will see that it did a little handshake. This is a negotiate message from the chat and between the client and the server. It recognizes that I'm on Chrome and my server is a .NET server. So this one here is an upgrade that says, hey, I don't need to talk HTTP. This is trying to do a real-time communication. Let's upgrade to WebSockets, and that's what we'll do. So here we can say, Rosen said hello, and hit send and send. It's real time, right? So if I have multiple clients connected, they will all see the same thing. But here I can look into the messages here. Now you'll notice that this is all WebSockets because that's what the upgrade was. And here is Rosen saying hello, like 5 times that I clicked. So WebSockets, it's done, and it's pretty easy for us to look into it. But again, it takes a lot of work because each of these protocols are different. So this is WebSockets communication, and this socket can stay on for as long as it takes until the client on the server leaves. And so socket IO, Rosen, is similar to this, but it has certain implications beyond WebSockets.
Yeah, it's just a different library, but what it has is multiple other properties, so you see a lot more columns here.
Right. So this is WebSockets, and then we can do this all day. Let's go ahead and stop this app here for a second, and we're going to go back to VS Code, pause this, and I'm going to turn on one more thing here. In my program.cs, when I was enabling SignalR, I can now add on this extra thing that says, hey, use message protocol. What that does is WebSockets is JSON-based communication, which is fine, but it's not the most compressed, not the most optimized. So if you want to use message pack, that brings in like protocol buffer style communication, which is not human readable, but it's really, really compressed. So I bring that in, and this is a Node.js package, so I have to bring in a npm install message pack that drops in a few JavaScript things in my project, which I'm referencing here. That's messagepack.js. And now in my chat.js, while I'm creating a connection from this particular client back to the hub, I can now say, hey, I'm ready for some message pack protocol. So just one line of change here. I'm changing up the protocol that's been used from WebSockets to message pack. So that's about it. So if you try doing this in DevTools or any other browser, it's not going to show you anything here. But here, let's go ahead and refresh this one more time. Go back to Fiddler, and now you'll see that the WebSockets thing died because that's in red. But this one here is also an upgrade, but this one's saying, hey, I'm a little bit of a special thing. I am not your traditional WebSockets. So let's go back here, and we'll say, Rick said, hi, and send. So same experience as a user, but what you don't see behind the scenes is this is a little bit more optimized because this is using message pack. So if I go back here into Fiddler and look at the messages here, now this is all binary messages. Wait, did it actually switch? Hold on. This is still client server.
Yeah, it's still.
It is still JSON. Oh no, that did not work. Okay, so we'll give this one more try and maybe blow away my cache. Yeah, let's completely close this. We'll give this one more try, but you understand what I'm trying to do here. Let's see, do I have to enable anything else? I'm just turning on message pack. This one's still referencing protocol. That should be it. Oh, maybe I didn't run the app right. Let's see. This one here is back. This one's still saying WebSockets. No, this one's still JSON. So I am
just attribute, but
yeah, wondering if I need to clear cache or something. Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure about it, but yeah, regarding the message pack, I want to mention that Fiddler is using message pack internally for its own communication. So yeah, we really love the message pack and the SignalR service. So it's yeah. In some occasions, I'm using Fiddler to debug Fiddler.
Yeah, so it is actually not switching protocols for me. But anyways, you get the idea. So the thing that I was trying to show is, even though this is not text and not JSON, you will see the upgrade to from regular HTTP, not just to WebSockets, not to message pack, and we can decode the binary things within message pack as well. So you can read all of your message pack updates right here as well, as the communications are happening between client and server. So WebSockets, message pack, socket IO, protocol, proto buffers, all of that is done, and HTTP2 support is final and fully done. So a lot of different variety of protocols that we can support. That's all about network. As you can say, we can keep talking about Fiddler all day long, but the team and Rosen is really interested in your feedback, in your issues, and how you're using Fiddler. Give us your feature requests. Everything is up on this GitHub repo, Telerik Fiddler Everywhere /issues. So talk to us, all right? Talk to us about how you're using Fiddler, any feedback that you want, any particular features that you want, any particular roadblocks that you're having. Rosen and the team are always listening. So please talk to us. And Rosen, thank you for your time and showing off some really cool demos. Otherwise, you'll be stuck with me not being able to show message back, but glad that you are here. Let's talk about JustMock, because like Rick and me write perfect code. We don't need to unit test anything. We have a lot of confidence, but turns out most of us need a little bit of help. So which is where JustMock comes in. This is our beloved mocking solution for all of your unit testing workflows. Anytime you have code that is trying to call into a service, or it's trying to reach into a database, talk to a service, those are all things that are really difficult to write unit tests for, because you're depending on that other service to do its thing. So you cannot really isolate your code, and which is where mocking really comes in. And this has been our mocking solution for quite some time now. Works for just about every type of .NET app, and we keep on investing more love and effort into this to make sure it works for every type of app. And we are also enabling certain other workflows. So it's not just your dev machine where you're doing mocking. We're thinking about how else or where else you would run your unit tests. So JustMock has come a long way. Long list of features here, mocking everything from public methods to link queries to sealed classes, assert of various types, integration with other testing frameworks, NUnit, MS Test, bring your unit frameworks. We work with all of them. And then it, the build and the system and integration part of it is really important. Where do you want to run those unit tests? In Azure DevOps or your local build machine under your desk? We work with all of it, and we work with a variety of tools from Visual Studio Code, JetBrains, you name it. We got you covered. So coming this release in Q2 2024, we got a few interesting things. One is we are standardizing on .NET Standard 2.1, so you got full support. C# language for C# 12, the latest bleeding edge things, we got support for that, and 13 as well. We're looking at that support for .NET MAUI, which I find closer to my heart, because I can write real modern cross-platform apps and be able to use like Ant unit testing for my .NET MAUI views. And anytime my app is calling into services, I got all of that. The new JustMock console, this is actually really nice because it lets you have a standardized approach in how you provision and run your unit tests, be it on your dev machine or be it on your production servers or build machines. And you don't want to do production servers unit testing, but all the way up until production, where you want to run those tests, any type of CI/CD pipeline. And we'll want to enable this if you're running on a Windows server, then there's a dedicated Windows console app that'll do it for you. But if you rather have this completely scripted, so you just want to have no installations and just brought in as a NuGet package and be able to just have the bootstrapper that runs your tests anywhere, we can do that for you as well with the new JustMock console. And we're trying to welcome everybody. Windows is how it's always been. So if you're using Visual Studio and you're on a Windows machine, you are golden. That's the best possible experience with an IDE. But we want to include everybody, like folks like me who are on a Mac OS dev machine or Rosen here. So if you go out to getting Telerik JustMock today, you're going to see some interesting things. Once you look in your downloads directory, once you're signed in, you're going to see some things. One is the MSI, which is for all of your Windows machines. Then for Mac OS and Linux, we are trying to differentiate, is yours an x86 or x64 based machine, Intel chips, or is it really an ARM64, which is what my machine is, a modern M1 or an M2 Mac. So we got JustMock running on everything. We got installers that do a clean install and get you the bits that you absolutely need, and none of the things that you don't. So really trying to include everything in there. So let's take a quick look at this. I'm going to keep this short, but if I head out here to JustMock, and let's bring this up here. And if I go to my downloads, or you can find JustMock right in here, and you can try out the installer. Once you get the installer going, this is what you get under the under the cover. So let's go into my computer. Here's my Mac. It gets installed in whichever chosen directory of yours is, but the default is like a library. And then here is my JustMock directory, if I can find it right here. So I get a few version numbers. This is the latest one, 2024. And in here are my libraries. And I get a couple of things. One is the .NET Standard Library. This is the Telerik JustMock DLL. This is the one that you want to reference in your project, so it starts picking up your unit tests. And this is actually the .NET Core CLR runtime, the profiler that actually goes in and gives you all the telemetry as you're running your .NET apps, and you're profiling it with the debugger. So here's the experience. If I pull up Visual Studio for Mac here, and the Windows experience is exactly the same. So I'm going to pull up just a demo project here. Let's make things a little bigger so it's easier to read. So this is a super simple Hello World app. This is where I'm bringing in the JustMock DLL as a dependency in my project, so I know what I'm doing and I have the reference. This is the classic use case of a warehouse app. So envision you're running an inventory of a warehouse, and you have products, and each products have multiple quantities that are in stock. So I have a order coming in. Well, before I go into the order, the warehouse has inventory method that checks, hey, is this a regular product, and is this a product that I have more in quantity than what is being ordered? Then we return a true. If not, we return a false. And once you actually have an order come in, you actually want to decrease the quantity because that order took out that much of quantity from that warehouse. So here's here's the order class. It has a product and a quantity name. It just comes in. When you mark a product or an order as complete, you just want to go into the warehouse. First up, check that you have the right inventory, and if so, then go ahead and remove that and then mark the order completed. So really simple C# code is what I'm showing you here. Here's the unit test for it, and there are a couple of ways in which we can test this and really mock it out. So the first thing is, let's just say the warehouse has no inventory. You don't want to go to the database or your service. You just want to always return true. So in this case, I'm doing a mock arrange, and I'm saying the warehouse always has an inventory, so it always returns true, right? And then when you call remove or complete on the order, like in this one here, the remove actually doesn't do anything because we are not actually going and talking to the warehouse class, so it just does nothing. So that's one way. Or the other way is adding some sample dictionary in here, some shirts and trousers and hats, like that is my warehouse with my inventory. And in that case, it can actually read the test products and it will load up the order. This one's saying, give me an order of a shirt of 1. So yes, we have 23 shirts. We can definitely serve up that order, and then it marks the order as complete. So with that in setup, I can go into my test console here. One thing you want to do is make sure you are enabling the profiler. So here is a custom execution mode. So in here, I am pointing it to using the .NET Core debugger, but I'm pointing it to the JustMock profiler. I'm pointing it to that file that was in my library. With just that one setup, now I'm ready to run my tests. So let's go ahead and run this super simple test, which obviously will succeed. But again, notice that I'm choosing that debugger and that right profiler, so I have all the things that I want. And here are my 2 tests that successfully passed, and I got my sample inventory. Everything is green, and I'm happy. Now, this is one thing to do on your dev machines. The thing that I was going to show is, and we don't have a whole lot of time, but let's pull up my terminal real quick. I'm just going to step through this and not actually run this. So if I, first up, you need, if you're doing this on a Windows machine or on a dev box or a Mac or Linux or on a server, first thing you want to do is, I'm trying to show you the new console. for it to be working on a Windows app, you got a standalone console, you can do that. But if you are wanting to use the .NET tool, which is actually a CLI tool, which is our JustMock, runner, for that to be enabled and be brought down through a NuGet package, you need to have the Telerik NuGet feed kind of enabled, and you just need to sign in once and you're good. You can do this from Visual Studio, or you can just do it manually as well. So with that, I can come in and I can install the Telerik JustMock console. So it's already installed. I'll still fire up and it's just going to say I reinstalled the thing that you already had. But now this becomes a global install of a .NET tool. And I can run this anytime, just saying, JustMock console. So if I list out all my tools, I have some .NET Serve, I have Electron, and right in there is Telerik JustMock console. And you can, run this with just this command. So what this does for you is, if I go into the docs really quick, what this does is it lets you run your apps and run your unit tests any way you want. So here's the doc for it. So essentially what it's saying is, once you're ready to run this thing, all you'll have to do is JustMock console and pass in some parameters. Like, here's the full path to the profiler that you want to use. Here's the full path to all of your unit tests that you want to run. And all of this can now be scripted from the point of getting to the NuGet package, installing it, and running your test. All of this is just like 3 to 4 lines of scripting code. And this can be a part of your build script. And you take this places. You take this to any DevOps, process that you have, any CI/CD pipeline that you have. It's just going to download that console, run your apps, give you all the telemetry, and get out of your way. So really nice and streamlined way of running your unit tests with the JustMock profiler anywhere that you want. So pretty exciting stuff here. And just tell us more about what you're wanting to see, and the team will be, happy to do more. Rick, coming back to you, going through the Q&A panel, was there anything that you really wanted to answer? Because a lot of the questions have been answered, but is there anything that you wanted to point out?
Yeah, there were a few great questions that were asked, and all answered by our panel of Todor, who's one of our support engineers, and Ivan, who's one of the principal engineers for the reporting. They provided great answers to the individuals, but just to voice them publicly, can you render new reports, maybe the new designers, on older rendering engines? That question is a little bit tricky. So the answer is maybe, but it could be difficult. In principle, we like to say have consistent versions for the viewer, designer, and rendering engine. Those three across the board, that make sure the schemas are the same, the features that are supported are the same. But in principle, if you're not using any of the new bits in your reports, and you manually update the schema in your report definitions, which we have documentation on how to do, you should be able to render newly generated reports in an older rendering engine. But we strongly prefer that you upgrade, and upgrading a report to newer versions is just as easy as opening it in the new designer and saving it again. And that'll automatically update the schemas and everything. There are a lot of good questions about conversion from other reporting formats to Telerik Reporting. We're actually very limited in what we can provide, not technically, but by the binding license agreements of other vendors. Progress is a publicly traded company. We play by the rules at all times. So what we provide is pretty much what we're able to provide. And that's documented on our website, which report versions can be converted to Telerik Reporting. Another great question. Actually, I was strongly critiqued. I made a comment that the column reordering was not a major earth-shattering feature. And based on the feedback in the Q&A panel, column reordering is a major earth-shattering feature. So let's move that to the top of the list. I think that's all that stood out for me. I'll keep skimming to see if there's anything else that looks good if you want to take a look at other questions.
Anything else from the Fiddler side of the family that you want to mention, Rosen?
Yeah, I just want to mention again that we have the new tool, the Fiddler Everywhere reporter, and if someone wants to give it a try, there are many ways to find us. GitHub, feedback portal, whatever you want. Just drop a line and we'll contact you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of good question answers here, but folks, we are going to try to be respectful of your time. We have already overshot it by like 20 minutes, but there was good stuff in here, a lot of things to cover. in this release. And just to wrap things up again, Rick, Rosen, and me want to thank you immensely for your time. Your time is precious, and hopefully you're seeing that with reporting, with Fiddler, with JustMock, we are trying to enable all of your important enterprise workflows. With reporting, run it anywhere you want. You get all the flexibility with the deployment, all the flexibility from a user standpoint to design and create and generate and render your reports, run your report servers anywhere you want. And with Fiddler, you're seeing that all the love and care that's been put into to think through every stack of your modern application developments, different protocols, different visibility points, and everything that Fiddler can capture and let you manipulate, so you are always in charge and never in doubt as to what's happening in your network stack. So thank you from all of us for tuning in, and a big thank you to everybody in our back rooms who's been answering questions as well. So I appreciate all of your time, and thank you everyone, and hopefully you use all of these latest bits to be a little bit more productive and successful in whatever you are doing. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.